Welcome to Star Talks, powered by EdvoTalks. And today, we have with us an esteemed guest, Miss Bani Tuggal, who is an immigration legal expert based at Canada. Bani has pursued law degrees from India as well as Canada and has been looking into immigration services at Ontario. She has been actively writing and speaking on immigration laws at various conferences and publishing platforms. Some of the topics are like process of accreditation from NCA, that is National Committee on Accreditation, the NCA and bar licensing journey in Canada, to name a few. She has also held positions like youth counselor at International Institute of Gurmat Studies, Director of Public Affairs at Global Lawyers of Canada. Today, we would like to spend time with her to understand on the topic, Fast Track Your Legal Career, Immigrating to Canada as a Lawyer. I should admit that I'm quite excited to host her. With that, I warmly welcome Bani Tuggal to our talk show. Over
Thank you
to
so
you,
much,
Bani.
Imani. So sorry. Thank you so much, Imani. And I'm so overwhelmed. That was an amazing introduction you gave, which sometimes even I forget what in between stuff I did here and there. And thank you so much, AdvoTalks, for organizing this whole event and having us do a question and answers just so people can get a bit of insight of what's going on. And I'm excited to answer your questions today.
Bani, I would like to start our talk with a query that how did you draw your interest towards the immigration law in first place? And how has your journey been so far at Canada?
So yes, immigration law, to be very honest, it was the last on the cards when it came to practicing because when I started my legal career, I was mostly into civil litigation, and wills and estate law. But because 3 years ago I started a legal blog, which is called the Brown Girl Perspective. It's basically on YouTube and Instagram. And I started this honestly because I was doing my bar exams and I took a little break from the bar exams. And when I started this, it was just to help out my juniors and students who wanted to immigrate to Canada as a lawyer, and go through the same process which I had been through. So when I started, this blog, it was totally out of, mere it was a helping tool for others. But I realized that immigration was one of the biggest aspects which people were struggling with, not just becoming a lawyer in Canada, but actually moving to Canada and immigrating to Canada was the bigger issue. So last year, around the same time, I just dropped other areas of practice and completely dove into immigration. I do a lot of immigration filing as well as a lot of litigation and when it involves immigration, which means judicial reviews, appeals to the federal court and the Supreme Court as well. So so far it's been amazing. I think immigration is one aspect which can be viewed through many different lenses. And it's not just picking up your bags and moving, but it has so much to look into. And overall, I just love being, a lawyer in Canada. And it's just the journey was a little bit tough, but I think once you're done with it, it's really rewarding.
Oh, that's very interesting, Bani. For numerous budding law aspirants who want to practice law in Canada, what are the relevant factors one should consider before moving? Also, can you highlight the various steps involved in the procedure of establishing a law practice over there in Canada?
Sure, yeah. So I think the first question you asked was that, what is the main change or what is the, you know, basic thing. I think the first question, if you're even considering to move to Canada as a lawyer or as any other professional or anything else, is are you ready for the lifestyle changes? I mean, mostly I always ask my students or my clients this, that if you're ready for the lifestyle change, because living in a South Asian country or living in any other European country, North America is very different. Especially practicing in North America and having a certain amount of professional responsibilities as a lawyer, which I've not seen in a lot of countries, but Canada does have and is very strict about them. So, and lifestyle changes, basic lifestyle changes, like how cold is it in Canada, or how the food is, or all that. And I think that is one of the main things which people should see is you can work anywhere in the world, but are you ready for those basic lifestyle changes on a day-to-day basis? And if you are, then that's amazing, because there's a lot of scope if you want to become a lawyer in a place like Canada. And some of this various steps. I think let's start with the first one is the NCA, so the National Accreditation Committee. Once you've done your law in India, you're supposed to give them an assessment, which means that you're sending all your papers, all your law degree and mark sheets to them, and then they assess your degree and they send you back, certain steps of what you have to do. Another way again is education, like LLM, paralegal course. And then after that, once you're done with the little, as you make yourself equivalent to a law student in Canada, after that, you have to go through a bar exam in the province, or you can say state you're in. So if, for example, I'm in Alberta or I'm in Ontario, I'll have to go through that certain province's bar admission process. It does sound a little overwhelming, but when you're living in a certain place and then you're doing it, it's not that overwhelming.
Okay. Now, can you break down the usual timeline of the process of becoming a lawyer in Canada? And what is an average duration of such courses, and whether there are any other requirements that students must fulfill to enroll into such programs?
Sure. So I think it can take anywhere. I mean, if you're not including immigration, it can take anywhere from at least 1 year to 2 years to become a barrister and solicitor, which is, in India they say lawyer and advocate, but in Canada you're given a designation of a barrister and solicitor. So I would say the NCA assessment, when you're sending in your mark sheets and paperwork to them, takes around 2 to 3 months. I would, and all of these estimates I'm just giving you on the higher side. Just, if it happens earlier, that's amazing. But just to keep the morale high, I'm just giving you the higher side. So approximately 2 to 3 months for the assessment. I would say anywhere around 6 months just to clear your basic NCA examinations, which almost everybody gets 5 to 8. There are basic 5 examinations which everybody has to give unless you've done certain sort of Canadian education. And that takes approximately anywhere from 6 months to 8 months or 10 months, depending on how fast you do them. And then the bar admission process, which in any, I would say, province, maybe Ontario, maybe Alberta, maybe British Columbia, would take another 1 year for you to do your articling or give your bar examinations. So anywhere from a year to 2 years you're looking at. Definitely in that time, like, I mean, a lot of people lose hope and say, okay, it's going to take me 2 years, I don't want to do this. A lot of times you do get jobs before that, and you do start earning really well if you're in the legal, if you're on the legal side and you're an assistant, or you become a paralegal, or even if you start working as a student intern. So you start learning and you start looking forward to the process. So it's not so bad. I mean, 1 or 2 years, it's just like doing another master's, and you're getting another upper edge in your legal career.
Okay. As you know, Bani, that universities offer so many varied and interesting courses. So it may cause confusion in the minds of the candidate as to which course to pursue. So, what factors should an aspirant consider determining which LLM or paralegal course is ideal for them? Also, as you mentioned about NCA exam, so many of our viewers don't know about this. So please tell us if it is bar exam for internationally trained candidates or who want to practice in Canada, or it is something else.
Sure. So I'll start with the second question first. So NCA is basically basic examinations for you. Like, for example, I'm practicing in India. I need to know the Constitution Act. I need to know the articles in that. I need to know IPC, CRPC if I'm practicing criminal law. For Canada, you need to know the basic laws, right? So I would say the first five they give you in NC examination is constitution law, foundation law, professional responsibility, administrative law, and criminal law. So this is the basic package, the basic five examinations which everybody gives to come as equivalent of knowledge to a JD student in Canada, which means a Juris Doctorate student in Canada versus an LLB student in India has to give those NCA examinations to become equivalent to a Canadian law student. After they become equivalent, the NC provides you with a national, like they give you a certification, and then you can go for your bar admission process. And even if you've done law in Canada, they give you their law degree, and they also have to go through the bar admission process. So anybody who wants to practice in Canada needs to go through a bar examination. So the bar examination and the NCA are very different. I know they can be very confusing when put together because they're both, for us, when we do our law from abroad and you go back to Canada or you go to Canada, for us, it's like one process. It's always clubbed together. We always think of it. We have to give the NCAs, we have to give the bar exam. But for anybody else also sitting in Canada, the bar exam exists. So NCA, I would say first step, and then bar admission process is the second step. So that's how, it goes. And like now I'm going to answer your first question. So you were talking about paralegal and LLM courses. So I think it's always personal preference. Again, there's three ways, like we discussed in one of the answers, to go to Canada and pursue your law, which would be, the first one would be directly going and doing NCAs. That's something which I did. And then the second would be going and doing an LLM or a paralegal course. Now, everybody comes from a different background, has different, ideologies, and has different, monetary terms at the time, right? So a lot of people can afford to do an LLM. So they go for certain LLM programs. Like, for example, I had some people go for tax programs. And what happens is that then they get a specification in that, but at the same time they still have to be NCA qualified. So that becomes a very dicey situation, and you kind of have to maneuver your career accordingly. I do recommend people doing the common law LLM, which is, I think, in York University in Ontario. And they always, because you get NCA qualified and you're doing an LLM, so you get both of those things hand in hand. So in that, what happens is that I feel it's more cost effective for the students. And then again, if you cannot afford an LLM, like most of the clients I get, they cannot afford LLMs, so they go for paralegal courses, which is again not a bad idea, because you're doing a paralegal course, you're getting an idea of the nitty gritties of how to have a law firm in Canada, how to run a law firm in Canada. And as soon as you're done with the paralegal course, the university or the college is going to help you get a job. So doing an educational course or going that route, it's definitely better because you get help from the universities with getting a job. And right now, Canada is a little messed up with the job market. So it really gives you an upper edge. With me, I just did the NCAs, and my personal experience was finding a job was very tough. When I did the NCAs, I was in a city in Edmonton, Alberta, and it was fairly smaller. And I had a really, really, long time finding a job. So Again, personal preferences, but these are all the ways you can take up.
Okay. So what I have understood that moving to Canada is going to be an expensive affair. So can you give us a rough estimate of the expenses the aspirants may have to incur for education, accommodation, etc.?
Sure. I mean, anywhere between $10,000 to $50,000. Um, it depends on if you're going to a university or you're going to a cousin, you're going to stay with a cousin or you're renting a place or something. But I would say anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 you should have as backup plan while you're doing your NCAs, because you don't know if you're going to be earning at that time or you're just going to be studying. And that would be the best bet, to keep as much as you can with yourself at the time while you're doing your NCAs. I think the NCA exam, I can give you a rough estimate of how much they cost. So I think the assessment is around $350, and each examination is again around $300 $400. So that is a bit, a bit on the lower side. I think the bar exam and stuff is more expensive. And again, staying in Canada is a little expensive at the time. So 10,000 to 50,000 would be my estimate.
Okay, that's very insightful, Bani. So, Bani, we are aware that, like all countries, Canada also has its own immigration laws and rules that all aspirants must abide by. However, what are the common issues that an aspiring law student may face during the immigration process, which they should prepare beforehand? Besides, what are the common pitfalls that candidates must avoid?
Yeah, so with the recent changes, especially with Canada's political situation right now, they have been decreasing, calling immigrants, even though they're saying that they want to call more immigrants. But recently, they have been decreasing in the past 2 months. Given Jan 2024, they have been decreasing a lot of stuff for Canadian students and people who want to move to Canada. I would say the biggest challenge is moving away from home, and struggling and getting a job. But I think adapting all in all becomes a very big issue for a lot of students and a lot of people. And patience is the best virtue, because finding a job, even in good times, as a legal student studied abroad, was very tough. So I'm sure at this moment it's even tougher. But I always say this to everybody: is keep patience. You'll get there, and it's just a matter of getting one job or getting your foot in the door, and then there's just no stopping.
Okay. So, Bunny, financial growth is one of the biggest motivators for people to immigrate to Western countries like Canada. So, I would like to know that what is the scope of financial and career growth for law students in Canada currently?
Well, to be very honest, it's amazing. I mean, it's not just financial growth, but the amount of respect you get as a lawyer, as a barrister and solicitor, may it be in Canada, may it be when you come back to India or anywhere else in the world. And I think lawyers start from anywhere from $60,000 to almost $200,000 they can earn per year. um, there's so many fields, there's endless amount of opportunities, there's endless amount of opportunities to tie up with firms in United States. It's not just Canada. I would say that you can expand so much. I've been working with a lot of international lawyers on a lot of things, and the amount of exposure you get once especially when you do your law. Like, I have a lot of friends. I did not get licensed in India, but I have a lot of friends who got licensed in India and then moved to Canada. And when you have a dual license, having that upper edge, it's just amazing when it comes to international firms. I recently have also written a book. And it's all about, most of the questions you asked me today. I've tried and answered those questions. And since the past 3 years, I've been working on the legal blog, and I'll just give you guys like a little view of it. So this is the book. Sorry. And it's called Aspiration to Advocacy. And this book it even mentions the question you just asked me, and most of the questions about how to process yourself through this, and how much a lawyer earns, how there's different because like I said, I started with civil litigation, ended up doing immigration law. There's so many different aspects of law you can practice in. So the book has covered that, and I'm sure I'd probably request AdvoTalks to give you guys a link to the book. But definitely, I would say I don't regret it even once, moving to Canada and starting my law career there.
Thank you, Bunny. And it's good that you have shown your book. It will help the aspirants a lot, and we will give its link also. So finally, Bunny, can you detail the process of bar examination and admission into the Bar Council in Canada? Are there any major differences between the procedure followed in Canada and India?
Not really. I think both of them are common law countries. So that ways, there's a lot of things which are similar, but yet different because of the different jurisdictions. But if you in India, I know that if you do your law school, you just apply to the bar and they let you do an examination, which is an all India examination, and you're through with all of India. In Canada, it's a little different because you have to go to a different province. If, for example, I qualified in Alberta, so I did my bar exam in Alberta, which was not exactly a bar exam, it was a bar exam course. So I did the CPLED course and cleared my bar. In Ontario, it's completely different. You have to give a barrister and solicitor examination. So my advice would be that wherever you are, like if you're settled in a certain province, or if you want to settle in a certain province, like if you're right now in India, or you're right now in a South Asian country, or even in Europe, just search up where you want to go, and then you contact the law society. They always have their emails and their contacts, and then they will give you an updated process of how to go about the bar admission process. And like I said, it's just almost approximately 1 year of a process, and then you're good to go.
So that brings us to the end of this great, insightful conversation with Miss Bani Tukal. Bani, thanks for helping us and our audience understand the various aspects of immigration laws and how legal aspirants can pursue their legal career in Canada. We appreciate your taking time, and thanks a lot once again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Himani. And I'm so happy to be here at Advo Talks and, have this with you, because it's amazing how you guys are trying to help law students and everything. So thank you guys so much again for having me. This is a great opportunity. And if you guys have any other questions, like to the viewers, you can contact me on my blog and on LinkedIn. And I'm always, I might respond in a day or two, but I'll definitely respond to your queries.
Okay, thank you, Bani. So, viewers, that's all about today's episode with Advocate Ms. Bani Tukal, which brings a lot of insights on the laws of immigration at Canada for the international legal aspirants and practitioners. We hope this conversation was knowledgeable. For more updates and information on legal concepts, please visit our website www.advotalks.com. And I will say that don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, AdvoTalks. Thank you.